Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. Hey, welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. This is the brewery edition. Where are we?
We are at Barrique Brewing and Blending
in
Nashville, Tennessee.
There we go. And everyone, this is Zeus. Well, Michael Zuehsow.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
I've only known you as Zeus for, what are we going on, 9 years now?
Yeah,
or
9 or 10,
like
something like that, yeah.
And it's incredible to me because the first time I heard your name, I was like, wait, I get it's Zuehsow, but Zeus, I always messed up the spelling.
Oh, yeah, everyone does. Like, it's just part of the life, you know? Like, there's only really 2 places that I care that my name's spelled correctly. That's my passport
Yes.
and my paycheck.
100%.
And other than that, I'm just like, good luck, everybody. You know, like, I don't really care. And the Zeus thing, it's just simple as, your name's Phil.
Yeah.
And then there's there's Phil, Dave, Mike, Steve. Like, all the sound guys have the same names.
100%.
And so you go on your first tour, there's 3 mics that all do sound. So you're like, everyone gets a nickname.
100%.
And people find out half of my last name phonetically says Zeus. And they're just like, well, there's your nickname.
There's your nickname.
I don't mind it. You know?
And to everyone that's listening, I'm going to go by Zeus just because I've done it for so long that it would totally mess me up if I started calling you Mike
most
or
people,
Michael.
Most people that know you and I wouldn't know me as Michael anyway.
Yeah, so if you hear me say
accurate.
Zeus, I'm referring to my buddy here.
Yeah.
Zeus and I toured together years ago and you were the opening act at the time with a guy named Colt Ford.
Yeah.
That was a fun little run we had.
Oh, yeah. That was a big deal for us, too, because with Florida Georgia Line, those guys kind of like, that was the tour, and so those guys kind of were blending genres, kind of like, I wouldn't say before anybody else, but like at a level that nobody had done yet before. And so Colt being a similar thing, he was kind of doing a country rap type thing. He comes from the Atlanta hip hop world, but it's also a country boy. So he kind of developed this thing, did it independently. All the labels told him no, which kind of like made me kind of like the outlawish kind of style of it, kind of being like, we're going to do our own thing. But what made it cool was that, and not a lot of people know this, but like FGL used to open for us when they talk about when they're back in their Suburban with a trailer. Yeah. Like they were doing shows with us.
Oh, okay. I see. I didn't know that.
And I remember finding a day sheet where it was like there was 2 acts between. We were at Cotton Eye Joe in Knoxville, like one of the crappiest venues in the world. I mean, it's it's a place, but it's no hate on anybody who gets to play there because it's actually pretty big, so you get a good...
it's not an MSG, in other words.
Yeah, well, it's like one of those places, there's tons of people, but it's super low ceilings, really ghetto. You load in and out through a crowd, like, it's awful.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's awful, but like, I just remember seeing it was like, FGO was like 3 acts before us.
Isn't that wild?
And then like, within a year of that, Cruise like hit, and then a year after that, I remember the last show that they opened for us. And they were in a Sprinter van and a trailer. Yeah. Jared had just started. There was no one. There was like the band wasn't even there was like some of the last shows with some of the original band guys, and like they had no crew. Yeah. They I think Tracker just started. Like
bare bone.
Like, and then within literally a year to that date was when that tour started. And so they went from a van
to bus.
To like it was like 3-4 buses.
Yeah,
and
well,
trucks,
when I signed up, there was at least 3 trucks and 2 buses. So yeah, it was wild. You know, funny, real quick side note, when I heard cruise for the first time, I was living in Austria, and someone had posted the video on there. Like someone that worked for Chief had posted a video of that on their Facebook, and I was like, "What's this?" And I instantly heard it, and I was like, "That's going to be giant."
Sometimes you just know, you know.
It was because I had toured with Nickelback, and so
yeah,
the tones, the beats, the everything. I was like, that sucked me in too fast.
I wonder if there's a reason that those 2 bands are so successful. Similarly,
yeah.
Google it.
Google. But the cool part is that you've gone and like you were doing at the time you were doing front of house TMing, or no, was it PMing? So production managing. You were doing all these things, and over the last like 9 or 10 years, I've watched you really hone in one career, and now you work for one of the largest country artists in the world, and Luke Combs, but you made a few steps in between. Like, was it Lauren?
So with the Colt Ford thing, I was there for 6.5 years.
6, yeah.
And then I actually tried to retire from the road.
Oh, I didn't know that. Whoa.
Yeah, I actually took, I think, a 1.5 years off.
Oh, okay.
I'd say off. That wasn't off. What I did was with Colt and his label and his business partner, I partnered up with them, and we opened a studio. And so I was going to try to do the full-time studio engineer thing. And I did, and that studio's still running, Keystone Studios. It's like, it's here in Nashville. I was there yesterday,
nice.
Still running that. But through that, like, the first thing that happened, and you know how this goes, is somebody had a wedding. And I'd run into them at Red Door or something like that, and they're like, "Hey, do you know anybody that could fill in on the blah, blah, blah date from my buddy's wedding?" I go, "Well, actually, dude, I'm not on the road right now. I can fill in for you."
Yeah.
And then, dude, it took like 2 months.
And you're a full-time back.
Yeah, before the world found out I was available. And I became like the fill-in guy for a while. I was like filling in for all sorts of people. And
I can kind of remember that just by, with social media nowadays, you can see where people, like, oh, Zeus is hopping on another bus today.
Yeah, and the big thing was everyone that had talked to me knew that I was doing the studio, and they knew that I had no intention I wasn't looking for a gig. They also know me as a person. They know I'm not going to come try to snake their gig away from them.
And that's so important in this world, too, because people are terrified of losing a gig.
Yeah, and I'm also pretty astute enough to know to go in and, like, know what caliber the person does their job at, and then, like, knock it down 5%, and so that the show goes perfectly and everything's great, and they're, like, not worried about it. But I also don't, like, do anything. I don't try to go above and beyond and, like, try to sell myself
100%
and make the guy who's been there for 10 years look bad because they got a system and I do something different. So I just kind of like read the room and kind of like follow their lead and don't try to undersell or oversell myself, and just kind of like take care of my friend for the day. Let them not worry.
And that's a confidence thing, too. Like, I mean, that's just that's a genuine friend thing to do, but that's also, like, you have enough, like, confidence in yourself.
It's exactly what
like,
you want someone else to do to you.
Yeah, you're like, I'm okay with what I do. I want to go find another gig. I don't want this one, so I'm going to make sure they're happy, but...
You want the band and artists to come back, when you come back, to say, like, it went great. That guy was awesome, but we're glad to have you back. How was it? How was the wedding? And that's the end of the conversation. Not like, hey, this guy did this different. It really helped me out. Or like, man, that guy was awful. We're so glad you're back. Like, you don't want that. You want
and running monitors, just so people know, is because I don't think I've had a monitor guy on. I've had a front house guy on, or like other positions.
They were probably all crying somewhere. Yeah.
But monitors is one of those gigs where you're dealing directly with the artist at a different level than a lot of other people, because you might have one guy on stage you deal with, or you might have 20 guys, and you're the one that's creating what we call in the business a mix, but you're basically building a CD for them to listen to every night. Right?
Yeah, and it's essentially too, and it's like, it's a lot of micromanaging, because, you say you just make a CD or like an album style mix. That's what some guys want. And some guys just like want bizarre things. And so like I
want click and vocal.
Yeah, and there's some psychological elements to it, to where you have to realize that not just environmentally, but like physically in your head and perceptively, like people hear things different, and what some people think sounds great sounds terrible to other people. And especially a trained ear, like an audio guy, like you learn how to listen to certain things, and what's theoretically or subjectively or objectively bad. There's different variances of stuff, and playing music is a really helpful thing too, because you have to be able to put yourself in that spot of the guy on stage and know what's actually helpful. And so some guys want creative energy and they want it to be inspiring and they want it to be musical and they want it to sound like rock and roll or sound like country or whatever.
Yeah.
And some guys want strictly utilitarian.
Yeah, because they're just coming to play the song and get out.
They're thinking about how, not like how great that guitar sounds or whatever. They're thinking about how they can get that guitar to pop out in the right place so they can hear what their other band members playing in context to like best represent musically what's going in there. But that being said, sometimes those decisions make the mix sound very uninspiring from like a creative standpoint.
100%.
It's purely utilitarian. And it gets a little complicated in that way because like you have to feel out which person, you know, some guys are better at some, you know, like it one way or the other, but
well, honing those skills though, I mean, you've been in this industry, what I'm going to say 15, 20 years?
I'd say, like 12 to 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you get your, like, were you, because there's the people that came from mixing at churches or working on, you know, like playing a guitar as a kid that then translated into a band, that then translated into going on tour with their buddy's band. And what was your rise before we get to like, you know, like obviously you have a really good sense of what artists want. And so I'm sure growing with someone like, because you've been with Luke since he kind of started, right?
No. So I like hopped on like right when he like really blew up.
Okay.
Like he was doing very, very well. He had, I believe 2, maybe 3. I think he was on his second number 1 when I started with him. So it was like, I was hired on when the big jump happened.
Okay. So you've been able to come in and truly guide and help and build.
It's like the 3rd year. I'm on my 3rd year with him now.
That's amazing.
He's been doing it for like 5 or 6, I think.
And so you're with Colt for about 6, you said, and you still do some studio stuff. But were you in the studio prior? Is that kind of where you built your skills, or how did you get into it?
Yeah, the studio, like I wasn't in my own studio, but like I was in a lot of studios because, first off, like there's a whole other story to this, but like I had a mentor that it was a live sound guy.
Okay.
And he
here in Nashville?
Yeah, here in Nashville. He basically pulled me aside one day, just like because I was working for this company, and he pulled me aside. He's like, "What do you want to do?" He's like, and I felt so pressured. I was like, I don't know, man. Like he goes, and I was telling him this whole thing about like, well, these guys. I was young, like fresh off the boat, and I was like, well, these guys are telling me like, you know, like if you want to be a front of house engineer, don't take the monitor gigs because like you'll be labeled as a monitor guy, and those are the only gigs you'll get. And I was like, I mean, I get that, but is that really true? And so I told that guy that, and he's like. It doesn't, I mean, sort of applies, but doesn't really apply. He goes, you know, like, if you want to do them both, you can do them both. Yeah. And I told him in that same conversation, I was like, I've always wanted to be a studio engineer, but also I love live sound, so I, like, don't want to have to choose one. And he's just like, if anybody tells you you have to choose one, they're wrong. And then he gave me a buddy as his number who has, at a very high level, successfully done both for decades.
Nice.
And he was like, if you ever have any questions, call this guy. He's been doing exactly what you want to do.
Perfect.
I actually never called the guy, but I eventually met him later in life, and I told him this whole story. And
I've had your number in my phone.
Yeah, and he's like, you should have called me. I was like, I don't know what I would have asked you. I just went and did it. But just knowing that somebody was doing it inspired me to do it. But so that being said, on the Colt Ford bus in my first year, it's one of those like opportunities that you just have to seize and then like know that this could be beneficial to you. And the guitar player for Colt was producing, so Colt's first album had come out and he and his buddy had produced that kind of like grassroots.
Yeah.
And that's what got us start. And so we were kind of riding the coattails of that first album's popularity. And so then they hired the guitar player to produce the second album, which ended up being enough material for the second and third album. But what happened was we were on the bus, and, you know, the guitar player was kind of like getting his first opportunity to produce. And he was like, I got to run Pro Tools because he was running Logic or something to like create at home. He's like, I got to learn this because that's what all the studios use. Yeah. So I walk in the bus one day and he's on his laptop in the front lounge with Pro Tools open, just scratching his head. And he's like, hey, dude, do you know anything about Pro Tools? And I just got out of school, you know, like I know I've just been studying it forever. And I'd been doing a lot of work in it. I knew a lot. I wasn't an expert, but I knew enough. Yeah. Knew more than he did. Yeah. And I go, yeah, sure. He goes, sit down. And I sat down, started showing him some tips and tricks, just how to get around, et cetera. And he's like, okay, cool. He's like, can we do this more often? I was like, dude, anytime you want. Like, I love this stuff. Long story short, I believe like, I don't remember exactly what happened. Somebody got sick and he called me. I was living in Murfreesboro, which is like, 45 minutes away from this studio. he called me and goes, "Hey, my engineer for the day is sick. Can you run a tracking session?" And I literally just got out of studio school, and I was like, "Yeah, I can run a tracking session."
Got this.
Even though I didn't want to be like, I've never done it professionally in Nashville before, but like, or at that studio, I'm gonna need the address.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I just jumped in.
Throw in the fire, right?
And then I've done his last 8 albums.
That's amazing.
And so I just like kind of.
Is it fun to jump around back? I mean, okay, so did you go to MTSU for this? Okay.
MTSU,
So, and that's the school here down in Murfreesboro and they have a big sound department, or is it?
It's like mostly, they have some live sound classes, but it's mostly studio production,
stuff. Okay. I know I came from Full Sail, and like I knew nothing about anything. I was flipping wings at Hooters prior to going to school there.
Nice.
So to me, it was like a really interesting field when they asked me like, oh, do you want to go live or do you want to go studio? Well, I think it's awesome that you still do both, because there's not a lot of people that go back and forth just because they are really different.
They reinforce each other so incredibly well.
They do, but people will fight it all day long.
I don't know why people fight it. They're just like, and then live guys refer to studio guys as studio guys, and vice versa. It's like, well, those live guys, whatever. Now, that being said, everybody's personality type's different,
100%.
And like, I have some friends whose personality types are audio friends that work in post-production or editing, and they work in studios, and they just don't have with issues with anxiety. They have issues with anxiety and pressure, and they're introverted.
And live sound is not for that.
And one of my friends came out to a show, and he just looked at me. He's like, "I have no clue how you do this. This is terrifying."
Yeah. Well, what's fun is I used to always tell people, don't run, don't make a scene.
Yeah.
Something's already broken. You running out there is only going to save like 1 second.
Yeah.
Like, just walk out there, casually fix it, and walk off, and you're going to have such a more successful time, because if you run out there, then you're already out there, and you have no idea what you're going to fix.
Yeah.
At least walking out there, you can kind of look around, assess the situation, but live is anxiety. I mean, I think that's why I loved it, because I love that
pressure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The pressure. I've always said that, like, my definitive way of saying what you're talking about right there, the troubleshooting mentality, is that our job's not just to fix things.
No.
Our job is to, in the heat of the moment, when everyone's looking at you, to determine where in the gradient scale of what is the best, most correct fix, and what is the quickest, most, efficient fix.
Yep.
So sometimes the efficient fix fixes it for that second, gets you through the song. The correct fix is when you take the whole rack apart and you redo it and you prevent it from happening again.
100%.
In the heat of the moment, it's your job to be like,
we're just getting through the show.
Where do we land? Do we have enough time to switch out the whole thing for a spare, or do I need to just go hit it with a hammer? And sometimes hitting with a hammer is the fix, but you can't be like, yeah, I fixed it, we're good next week. Yeah. No. When you get home, you fix it.
Oh yeah.
But that's our job, is to figure out what's the best in the time and be calm about it. And then do it.
And I think that's what really makes a great road person, is the calmness.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have issues.
It's learned too.
Oh my gosh. My first, how long? I did it for almost 15 years. My first 14 years, I ran around like crazy.
Yeah.
I think I just figured it out my last year, and then I retired.
Yeah. It can get rough fast. I was
at the Forum one time, and it was like 10 minutes before show, and the console that we were using, the audience might not know what a Digico is, but it was an SD7, and the giant rack that was next to it decided that they just weren't going to talk anymore, and audio cut out. We were 10 minutes down, and we had a bunch of digital gear that needed time to go out and then sit out and then power back up, and it was about a 10-minute process of turning it back on. And I just remember standing there with the front of house guy, the production manager, the tour manager, the manager, Live Nation, everyone. They're like, how many more minutes? And I would look at the rack and be like, 2? I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
And they're like, is it going to work after this? And the only answer I really had was we shall see. But I said it in a calm way, where they're like, all I can do is sit here and hope that it does. And if not, then at that point we'll start to unplug stuff and hopefully we'll have a show, and so, and the other part too is studio, it is a clean environment. So you get to hopefully get to test something really good, put someone in there, try it once, try it twice, let's hit the snare 14 times, whatever.
Yeah.
But the live side is well, once you do those sound checks, you kind of walk away for a little while.
Yep.
And then hopefully it works.
Exactly. I mean, and you're right with the hitting the snare 14 times is like, I know some studio guys that take forever to get a kick drum sound. No, it's their job to get the best kick drum sound they can, because that's going to be immortalized in this album for eternity. That's going to be the kick drum sound that is recorded for that album. And I get the need for paying attention to that, but sometimes it's just there's a balance of what the intentions of the producer and the artist and like the budgets. And so tighter budget producers love working with me, because I'm just like, kick, all right, good, snare. And they're just like, you don't need more time. I was like, if you can tell me what you don't like about the sound, I'll happily fix it for you. Yeah. But does it not sound good? Yeah. And they're like, no, it actually sounds great. The other guys usually take longer. I'm like, you don't have to take the long time if you can get the results quick. Exactly. But that comes with time and experience. And especially working in my studio, like we use a house kit that's my kit, that I know that kick drum. And you know the room, I know the mics. Yeah, it's like, if I go to a new room, it takes more time. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but like I know that. So it's like, but sometimes the drummers included are just like, that's all you need? I'm like, no, that's all I need. We're good. I've done this kick drum 100 times this week, like. Are you, when you go out on the road with Luke, because you guys went from, and the audience, I've probably brought this up a little bit, but you guys were end stage, so you're on one end of the arena for a while. Did you have to go through some of those same things that you're talking about? Like, are you sure you got this? Or, hey, something's a little weird when you guys moved to the in the round stuff? Yeah, it was, I think we got conceptually, we like scared ourselves more than we should have, because we were just like conceptually, like everyone was trying to figure out like how this is going to feel, because we're all so used to performing in a direction. 100%. And we're used to seeing each other like eye to eye, and we're just like kind of like panicking, but we over prepared. Oh, but that's not bad. Which was great, because we got there and it just turns out it was super fun. Did you guys have rehearsals for a couple weeks? Yeah, okay. We did a lot of rehearsals, and there was definitely some adaptation to it. It's definitely a different feel, but like in terms of sound, like not particularly, like. Were you under the stage? I was under the stage, yeah. Was that new? Because, I've done a bunch of big tours where the monitor guys, or a lot of the set was under, or a lot of the techs were under the stage. Yeah. Was it, was that your first time? It was my first time, yeah. Like, so you're watching him through a screen, right? Or did you have a little cubby hole? I did not have a cubby hole. I was directly under the stage. I had no line of sight to even the audience. Like occasionally the skirt would fly over, and I'd like see a crowd, or I poke my head out, and I was always like, oh yeah, there's a crowd out here. But yeah, I had a screen, and so the video department was able to give me like the program feed, which is like what the audience sees on the screen for sure. And then the multi-view, which for people that don't know what that is, it's all the cameras like in a grid. You've seen it on TV shows and stuff. It's every camera source, and that's what the video guy looks through, and he's like, oh, that's a good shot, I'm gonna take that. So I had all the cameras. So a lot of them were like static. Like the drummer has a camera on him all the time. Exactly. They don't always put it up on the screen, but I could always see the drummer. I could always see the keys player. I could always see the steel player. Like I could see his hands, Did they have little signals they would give you? Because that's what being on a few of them, I know that there was signals, then a lot of them had talkbacks. And then, we have lots of talkbacks going on. We have signals for when we can see each other. It's a lot simpler. But the best part was the lighting department. We're using those robotic spots. So what it is there's a big screen off in a hallway somewhere. Instead of throwing the spotlights, like the spotlight guys up way in the sky, whatever, they're actually all crowded around a screen with little remote controls. And they put little cursors, little crosshairs on whatever they're called to do by the LD, the lighting director. And so what we did was we split the signal from that overview camera. Oh, cool. And they gave that to me so I could see the entire stage from above. So the only hand signals I got was the guys realized, because it was a good quality camera. It was above 1080p, I think. Like, it was a nice camera. And so I could do something and be like, is that good? And if they're in the middle of something, sometimes the guys would just throw a thumbs up. And to the crowd, they have no idea. The guy's just raising his hand, but I could see him. Yeah. But the best part was the part that I didn't lose was I could see a band member or whoever walking towards their talkback. Yeah. And so usually each guy has one or two things that they like changed the most. And so when I saw them start walking towards that particular mic, I would already have their page up and have my hands on one of the, like on the things. And so usually it wouldn't take much time at all. It'd take just as much time as it would if you could see them. You know, if they point their guitar and go up.
Yeah.
By the time they walked over there, they go, hey, guitar up. I'm like, got it. And I'm already done it.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of it. So it became as efficient as it could be without being able to see each other. But I did miss the crowd.
It is a weird feeling. Being under there, you're like, it's just dark.
Yeah, and it made it weird for, like, when we did MSG, we did 2 nights. And
love that venue.
Which it was incredible to be able to do 2 nights there.
Yeah.
And the crew there is so great.
Oh my
you know, like everyone tells you it's going to be terrifying, but it's just those people just aren't respectful, and that's what happens.
Whatever.
But the cool part is that was the first and only show that my wife Maggie got to come out and see the 360 show.
Oh, that's so cool.
And she likes being next to me and watching me work. She's more interested in seeing me doing my passion than maybe watching the show itself.
Yeah.
But this is a unique situation because I'm hidden under a cave and there's nothing to watch except for the screens. And so she got to watch one show from front of house with some of our friends. And then the next show she watched from under stage and was able to put the context of the two. Yeah. And I told her, I was like, I'm kind of jealous of you. You actually got to see the show. I haven't seen the show once.
Oh, and that's crazy because normally you can watch it from side stage and you can watch everybody.
You usually have the best seat.
And MSG is one of those places too where you want to see that crowd because they are just off the chain. And did you? I don't know if you felt this, but when I was there, I've been there multiple times, but one in specific, Jay-Z came out with Alicia Keys, and everybody in the audience started jumping, and you can actually feel the floor
it
move a little because it's on the 5th floor of Penn State, above Penn Station. And it never dawned on me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is insane. So that's awesome that you got to play there 2 nights. Dude, and see all the coolness of that venue.
When they were playing Beer Never Broke My Heart, like,
oh my gosh.
It's the last song before the encore.
Yeah.
It's just rocking, and that the whole like stage. Yeah. There's a couple of stages that do that, and that's one of them, and then Crystal Ballroom in Portland.
Oh,
that's another one that bounces really bad, and if nobody tells you about it,
you're kind of freaked out.
Think there's an earthquake going on, and like we have 4 guitar techs, and we all have talkbacks, and so. When it first started happening, one of the guys is like, he's very country. He's like, the hell is that? And I was like, the floor moves. Don't worry about it. It's fine. But, being under the stage was even more terrifying because, like, it was flexing a little under there. Like, my desk was moving different than the stage. I'm just kind of like...
It's a wild place. If I will always tell people, like, there's a few venues in the world you should see a show. You should go see a show at MSG once in your life.
Yeah.
It just is magical.
It's a great place to watch, like, 12 forklifts just do, like the Nutcracker dance.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
It's wild.
There was there's so many good stories. I have a question for you that it's not necessarily an audio question, but when I met you, you were doing opening act stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you said that you went from being like headliner and then you were opening for us, but then you moved forward as an opening act. One thing you always, as when you were out with me, you always had a bevy in your hand. Every time I saw you, you had a red Solo cup in your hand, and whether it be water or whether, sometimes it was you just getting over the night before, but you always had a drink in your hand. So I think bringing you out here was a really important thing for me because you like beverages.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that really struck me the other day was I've always known you as a very friendly person and a very helpful person. And not to get off Luke and touring and all that, but, we could spend 14 hours on that. I want to talk about this really cool thing that you did the other day by jumping in a giant frozen swimming pool.
Yeah.
For a Music Cares charity. It is called Music Cares.
Yeah, it's Music Cares, yeah.
Yeah, and so being in this industry, like I said, I've always seen you as a very friendly, you're always that guy that can go around and really engage with people. It's not just a fake talk. It's not just like you're just being friendly just to like gather more friends for your Facebook page. You've always really had like a really genuine soul to you. And so through that, I feel like you've gained a lot of people, and it froze the other day here in Nashville.
Yeah, it was pretty cold.
When I first saw your story come up, I wasn't sure where you were going with it because you're like, oh yeah, if you people start Venmoing me, I'll jump in this thing for $2,000. And I was like, all right, that's interesting. I want to make $2,000. But then all of a sudden your entire tone changed and you're like, I'm going to donate all of this to Music Cares. And I was like, that is just so awesome because there's not a lot of people that in this world would do something. Well, I take that back. There's probably a lot, but at the same time, a lot of people would just go do it for their own $50 or for their own $200. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just was really impressed with you turning around, and the time it took to raise it was what, like I feel like I watched one story and then 10 minutes later you had like $1,900 in the
insane.
account. I was like, oh my gosh,
It was
this is so
insane.
cool. So who does Music Cares benefit? And then we'll get to how cold you were.
So like the Music Cares, like we'll get to how this happened. This wasn't is a lot more spontaneous than you could ever imagine. But they're just like to cut that part out and like talk about it. Like Music Cares, I'm sure there's other people that can, you know, like do your own research and like find out more of what they do. But like I'm specifically attached to them because of the pandemic is a perfect example of a time that they help people at a larger scale. But before that, they've been helping people for years because basically the one thing about the entertainment business is that there's not a lot of like large crews and stuff. Like it's not the same as a corporate infrastructure where there's benefits and there's like, you know, even, you know, like there are big companies that have even psychological help and stuff like that available as a company. And so Music Cares is one of those places, especially with medical bills, for people who are independent contractors that maybe can't afford the best health care, et cetera. Like they need a little help. And I became aware of them through, you know, a friend of mine who at a young age had a stroke.
Oh, wow.
And he's had a full recovery. He's great. But in that moment, Music Cares, like they reached out to Music Cares and they helped him get the right doctors and take care of bills and like get things done so he could get the right care.
That's amazing.
No matter what. And they're kind of like a no discrimination. They don't ask for anything. It's, you know, it's kind of like that whole, I think it was at St. Jude's, or like there's a couple like those that have like there's no, you know, like no question about it. We're here to take care of people.
Whether you're a 40-year vet of the roadie world or you just started.
No, I'm sure there's always going to be some variances, whatever. But from my perspective that I've seen, that organization has always taken care of people without question. So it's one of those, if people ask you what your favorite charity is, like that one I know works. And it's specific to what I do, but helps people with one of the biggest black holes in our business.
Yeah, for sure.
Because healthcare is so complicated, you know. Like,
if
you want to see me grow some gray hairs today, we could talk about that. I don't like talking about it, you know, because it's so frustrating.
And that's awesome that you at least know that it frustrates you, but you know where that you can help.
Exactly.
And you know that even if you've been through something, you can turn around and say, well, hopefully this roadie or this guitar player or whatever may not ever have to go through how I went through.
Yeah,
right?
and it's kind of like, you know, how people like they'll put the GoFundMe's up, which is like a good way for friends to support friends and stuff like that. But it's like, imagine if there's a GoFundMe that's like already funded, or that continuously funded, and it's kind of like you don't have to be like, here's my problem, help me out. It's like, I've got a problem, can somebody help me? And they're like, we've already got assets to take care of it. You know, they've got the team, they've got the people to take care of it. And then it takes people like us to fill it back up. Now, so the pool.
Yeah. So if anybody's listening to this and, you know, you're looking for an organization, maybe you want to donate something, go drop $5, go drop $100, whatever you want. But Music Cares benefits. Is it the one thing I want to ask? Is it mainly Nashville or is it?
It's through the Recording Academy. So like the Grammy. So they're associated with them. So I think it's maybe even international. I'm not sure, but
interesting. Well, we could always dive into it more. I'll put a link up and stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's
awesome.
It's great. You know, I've like I said, I've only seen positivity out of it.
Perfect. And that's what this is all about.
And so
it freezes in Nashville.
So it freezes in Nashville. So through the pandemic, there's, like I said, there's always a longer story to everything, but. As the world knows, the world shut down. Yeah. And especially our business, the business shut down. Mm-hmm. And so we're not used to being docile. You know, we're not used to sitting. We're not used to having free time. And so I'm sitting. So to make it even more complicated, we were affected by the tornado in Nashville. Yeah. Which there's no fun talks about that. Like, if anyone wants to talk about natural disasters, you can call me. I'll tell you about how fun a tornado is to be in. It's not. No. We were one of the lucky ones. We didn't have any personal property damage or whatever. But the big thing that did happen to us that did suck is we were displaced. Mm-hmm. And so the displacement caused us to move. And so when we moved, we had to abruptly move into a new place that wasn't completely finished. Mm-hmm. And so with immense amount of time on my hands, I sat there with this new apartment and watched this construction team finish the pool, right? And so they were finishing the pool, and I was just kind of like loosely documenting it, like mostly out of like a little bit of bitterness and tongue-in-cheek satire of the fact that like they're working. So this is me, my optimism is like I had to sit there and tell myself that it's important for them to finish the pool because that means that those 4 or 5 people in their company are still working through a time where people are getting constantly laid off. There is a job intact.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that because of, at the time, very strict CDC regulations in our apartment complex basically saying all amenities are closed until further notice, I was just like kind of satirically like commentary on the fact that they're building a pool that we can't use.
Yeah, I remember that pretty good.
And so the best part happened where they started filling it up. And dude, you know, like when your creative outlet is gone, you can't help but find like, I'm sitting there analyzing, I've never built a pool.
No.
I've never even filled a pool.
No.
You know, like I filled like the kiddie pool outside.
Yeah.
I never filled the pool. And so they put this hose in there. I'm like, oh, they're filling the pool. I'm going to videotape this. Hours go by.
I remember that. I can remember this.
To a point where I was like, is it changing? And because it just looked like the hose. You know how a hose holds water? So the hose is like spilling a little bit. And I'm just like, it might be getting bigger, it might not be. Yeah. And then it started getting bigger, and I was like, it's going. And then I started having this whole conversation with all my friends about, I think what it is, they probably have other accounts. And if they turn the water on too high, the pool will fill up too quick, and it'll fill up in the middle of the night, right? But if you put it, I was like, these guys might have the math down where if they turn the knob this far and the water's flowing this much, it's going to take 3 days for this pool to fill. Yeah. And by the time they come back in 3 days, they can finish it off and be done. I was like, so overanalyzing everything.
But it's fun. You had
so
nothing
for
to
some
do.
reason, it's connected with people. Yeah. And everybody super enjoyed me watching, and basically, you know, like.
Well, you've had other ones too where you've filmed furniture in the pool. Like someone went in there and trashed the pool
It's
party.
because of the popularity of the pool post. I have no idea
I'm
why
pretty sure it gone viral. Is there
viral,
a TikTok?
No, it goes as viral as you can with only 1,400 followers on a private account that's mostly just people in my life.
But that's awesome though. Like, so think about that. You weren't even reaching anyone.
I wasn't trying to reach anyone.
Yeah, you were just having fun with this.
And so all that to say this, the parables of the pool. You know, like it kept going on. It became a thing. So now it's like if something happens in the pool area, like I got to film it.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, like simple things like this snowed the other day and there was one chair that had no snow on it and the rest of the chairs were covered with 5 inches of snow. And it's like, everyone's like, what's the story?
What is the story?
Why is and everyone's theory was that an influencer went down there and took pool pictures. And I was like, I have no evidence of that, but like, good thought.
Great thought.
So the pool had snowed over. Yeah. It froze over. It was freezing. The pool hadn't froze yet. It's frozen before.
Yeah, so I have seen that one.
I put a picture up before that of like, hopefully it freezes because last time it froze, guys were playing hockey on it. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
The best part of the hockey was they kept getting the puck stuck in the like vents, and they're down there on their hands and knees like trying to dig it out. It's hilarious. Just like childhood all over again. So the pool froze, or was about to freeze and was cold, and a friend of mine, it wasn't as complicated as you think. It wasn't a dare or whatever. He kind of just said, I bet you won't jump in. And I was like, maybe I will. And I was like, there's no value except for like a brief entertainment of jumping in. I was like, it's also going to suck. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I just, as a joke, posted, should I jump in? Yeah. And then all these people were like, yes, jump in. And then another friend was like, I'll give you $20 if you jump in. And I was like, that's when I flipped, and I was like, I bet if I put a number down, I'll say like, I'll put a number down and see if I can raise that money. Yeah. And then just being who I am, like I don't need the money. Like I'm not trying to like raise money. No. Yeah. Like from my friends. Yeah. That sounded like really arrogant, but like I'm not trying to jump in a pool to like earn money as income. You weren't looking to go buy another case of beer. I'm not trying to exploit my friends 100% for cash for entertainment value. You know, I'm like selling myself like an act. 100%. You know, like this was just fun. And so I was like, there's no better, like people can give me money to jump in a pool, but know that it's going to go something that's beneficial to others.
There's nothing arrogant about saying that. Like you think you said it perfectly. You're not trying to exploit your friends.
Yeah, and that's really what it was like make it a bigger purpose, you know.
100%. And so you chose
especially the life we've lived in the last couple of years of like watching the variance and how people, especially in our industry, like I was in the fortunate situation where Luke kept us all on full salaries the whole time, and that's something I'll be forever grateful for 100%. Him for, because a lot of people weren't in the same situation.
You were dead right.
And that's where I found myself sometimes. Is like it's not your like obligation, but I felt like it was a moral obligation to me while I was being taken care of to take care of others that weren't. Yeah. And it's kind of like, you know, giving back when you're being given something
100%.
And not being selfish with it. And so I'm trying to like perpetuate that mentality And that's why I did that. And
Cool.
the bizarre part was what you're talking about. It was like, I put that up, and within 3 minutes, one person gave $100, and like 3 or 4 people gave $25. It was up at like $300, $400.
I was so shocked at that.
And then I was like, oh, great, and then it just kept going up fast. And I was just documenting how fast it was going. And I was like, these people really want me to jump in a pool. And I told Maggie, I was like, she was working from home that day because they didn't travel because of the roads. And she took a little lunch break. And I was like, hey, you might be filming me jumping in the pool. She's like, what? And I was like, I'll explain later. But completely unintentionally, I looked at it later, and I accidentally did like a little bit of marketing genius where it was at like $1,900 or something like that. Or I was trying to, I was trying to raise $2,000 or something. Like, no, it was $1,500 or something. I don't remember what it was. The exact number. And
your marketing.
Oh no, it was $1,000. I was trying to raise $1,000.
Okay, we got to like 2.
Yeah. So this is what happened is I was trying to get $1,000. My marketing genius that I accidentally did was, my best friend Adam lives in the same apartment, and his baby, he has a newborn baby, or not new, it's like almost a year or something like that. It's like 7 months old, and had never seen snow, and so he's like, I'm taking the baby out to see snow. You want to go for a walk? I was like, yeah, sure. But I left and I went on the walk. I posted, I said, hey, I'm going to go on a walk, and when I come back, I bet this is over $1,000. It was at like $967. Or whatever the number was. It was like $37 or something like that away from $1,000.
The goal, yeah.
And so I just left it hang. I went and had a nice time. Turned my phone off, left my phone at home, and like went on a walk with Adam. And I came back, and like a bunch of people had put in that exact amount to be like the one that like made it to $1,000. And I came back, and it was at like $1,400.
So cool.
And I was like, all right, cool. And then like it went a little longer, and it made it up to like just over 15. And so what I did was I was like, practice what I preach. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, let's make it a round number. And so I put in $500 of my own money.
That's amazing.
And then just like $2,000, boom, we're done. And so full disclosure, part of the reason that I did the $500 was I realized that people were going to start watching the stories and started donating before they saw that I'd finished it.
So
and that I'd already made the donations.
Yeah.
So I made an extra donation that kind of like, as people sent me money,
capped it off.
I didn't have to keep like doing a bunch of donations.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so I ended up donating personally maybe like $480 or whatever, because a couple, $5, $10, $20, whatever it was. So it's like,
that's amazing.
I just like let those slide and just kept them in my Venmo and just like took it from my part, So I was like, all right, there it is. That gives me a cushion, so I don't feel like I'm exploiting anybody. But that's what happened.
How did it feel?
It felt good. The pool,
it
was cold. Actually, I don't know.
I'm going to say that it probably felt really good to donate that, but I mean, how was the pool?
The pool was cold, but the pool is still not as cold. Anybody that did sports like has done an ice bath, and it's miserable. It wasn't. It was less cold than an ice bath.
How long did you stay in?
10 seconds, maybe.
Okay.
The part that sucked was the wind.
Oh, getting back to the house.
And I run, so like my feet are decently calloused, but like the things like the arches of your feet, like that don't get
I'm flat-footed, so I don't know.
So yeah. So but it's like there's parts of your body that don't get as much attention, and like the arches of my feet were freezing walking in and out of there. The funny part is that apparently there's this group that I don't ever pay attention to at our apartment complex. It's like a lot of these apartments have like a resident forum where people be like, hey, the Ford Explorer on floor 3, you left your lights on. Hey, does anybody have jumper cables? Hey, then this one is a little bit too much of like, these guys all know each other. And they're like, who wants to go for 2-for-1s at blah, blah, blah. And so I muted it. I went back and looked at it because I heard some people yelling at me after I jumped in the pool. And I was like, I wonder if they said anything about that. And it said, someone beat you to the pool. And I looked back, and since like 8 a.m., all these people working from home were discussing that at 5 o'clock, everyone was going to do a polar plunge together. And so I jumped in, and they were like, whatever. And so too many of them gathered, and the management shut it down. Because they were like worried about slip risks.
Well, yeah.
And in our lease and everything, it says that like they can determine if something's safe or whatever. So I'm just really glad I went incognito and did it and got it done. Because I would have broke my heart if all these people like sent money for a fundraiser to see me jump in a pool, to see my misery. And then I wasn't able to do it.
You'd had to jump the fence.
Yeah, and so I was able to do it and then be off the radar, and then everybody else got in trouble, not me. So
Dude, I just have to give you a big cheers. And,
Cheers, buddy.
And we're going to cheers, and then we're going to talk about this lovely beer because where you live actually is... Sorry, I had to taste that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big sours person, but where you live is just... Well, and I think you even lived closer before the tornado.
Yeah.
Is right next to one of my wife and I's favorite burger beer joints. And that was actually our first date. And
good first date.
One of the most interesting things about you that I always there's a few. This one definitely next to the pool, jumping in. You had over 1,000, almost 1,300 bears there now.
Yeah, different beers.
Not in one sitting.
No, I would love to be able to do that. It'd be the Frank the Tank kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh! And what's funny is I'm not like a giant. Like I don't really try a lot of beers. I like Coors Light, Natty Light, Natter Days. I think
there's something to be said about consistency too.
Yeah, whatever. But I was just like blown away because I've seen the list and I was like, wait, holy cow! When you posted that one, that blew my mind. And so. You brought your 1,000th beer to the party. This is your Bevvy.
It's a really cool show. Really cool story. This is a cool show. It's a really cool story because so in conjunction at the same time, so Jack Brown's their whole thing is they try to like inspire diversity and inspire you to try things, and also it helps perpetuate, the beer industry, like creating things, and it helps them versus like a bro bar, buying truckloads of Miller Lite, and so which people love that. It's their go-to. Like we have truckloads of Miller Lite on tour with us because Luke's a sponsor of.
And you should.
And I love Miller Lite, and we drink it all the time. Like, I mean, is it my favorite beer? No, but like it's no one's favorite beer. It's maybe it is, but you know what I mean. But it's like it's not. The people making it know they're not trying to make the world's best beer.
Yeah,
it's quantity, consistency.
Yeah,
and that's what makes them successful. Now, places like Jack Brown's that like inspire trying new things, it gives the opportunity for both the beer buyers and the beer companies to have a really valid excuse to, like, when the beer seller comes in and says, hey, we have all these new options, they can kind of be the place that says, yeah, we'll take them all.
Yeah.
Because people are going to try them,
exactly.
And versus not just trying to find the one that'll sell the best. They're all going to sell because people like me and all this club of people are going and trying new beers every day.
Yeah. And it's like similar to the Flying Saucer.
Exactly.
Like they had that.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, exactly. They had the plates on the wall.
Yeah,
like,
which is funny. My brother-in-law, Brian, he had 2 plates there. And I used to think that was insane. I was like, oh my God, he tried 200 different beers.
Yeah.
And then so I did this thing, and next thing you know, like, so Adam and I did it together.
Okay.
Because we both lived in the apartment across the street, and he started doing it. And I was actually more like you, where I drank Yingling every time. I got to a point where, like, I didn't say a word. They'd slide the Yingling across, and I just never had it. And then eventually he made it to his 100. He got his shirt. They give these Dickies shirts, and you got your name on it.
Competition.
And I was like, he and I are always like trying to compete with each other. And so I was like, I really want that. And so that's when I got into it. And the next thing you know, I was getting closer to 1,000. And especially over the pandemic, we were home a lot, and I kind of like did a lot of work there. And also part of that was back to a more humanitarian style things. I had not lost my job.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't working, I had not lost my job. And so places like Jack Brown's were pivoting their infrastructure to try to stay afloat during times when we were not allowed legally to do inside dining.
Yeah.
And so they're doing a lot of to-go stuff. And so I would, like, at least weekly, maybe bi-weekly, order 18 beers from them and take them home. And then also, like, post about it to show people that you can still order beers, you can still do the whole Jack Brown's experience.
Cool.
And so I knocked out a lot of them at home.
Even better.
Like the last 100 was a lot. But Maggie, my wife, she actually, so when you get to 1,000, they throw a party for you. And,
they did.
And you become a saint. And so cool. There becomes a saint day for you. And that day every year, you get a party.
Oh, no way.
If you want it. It's not required.
You don't have to show
up. They basically, they cover your tab.
That's dangerous.
And you're allowed to pick, the 4 beers on tap, and you're allowed to design and pick the burger recipe for the day.
No way.
And it's like your day. And so December 17th, which is my birthday, it was my wife's idea. She's like, what do you want to do for your birthday? She goes, you should do your saint party on your birthday. And then you can always be in a place that you love and have your friends and like.
That's really cool.
And so like December 17th, St. Zeus Day at Jack Brown's in Germantown.
And this was your 1000th beer.
And so in light of that, my friend Joel, one of the longtime friends I've known for 20 years, he that's where we're at now, Barrique Brewing and Blending. He opened a brewery in that same year, and he's been brewing beers for years. And it was his idea. He goes, dude, I'll make you a beer for your Saint party. He goes, because he barrel ages all these sours and he bottles them and then conditions them in these bottles. He's like, I'll keg one for you for that party.
Wow.
And so like he and I talked, and mostly his ideas, but he knows what I like, and he made a sour beer and named it after me.
I love it.
For that, and almost for the sole purpose of, besides his creativity, sole purpose of like my name is literally on a SKU that like got to go up on the board, and it was pretty cool. It's all his idea, and so from that too, he makes second blends, and he was gonna name one after my wife Maggie, and then he remembered that Maggie doesn't like sour beers at all, and so instead, because this is the second use of the same varietals or whatever that made that beer. So this is the second version. It's called Mobley Z, which is my cat.
Oh.
And so Joel, being a creative, just named another beer after my cat, which
That's
I love.
amazing.
So it's like people don't know what the name is, and if they ask, whoever's working here has to tell them that it's named after some guy who comes here way too much. That it's named after his cat. I think it's hilarious.
I freaking love this story, man. And that to me though, you and Maggie are very similar to me and my wife. We don't go out as much anymore. We have like a little one, and we moved outside of town, and we just have kind of like slowly just been more like in the let's just stay home. But we've always loved fine wines, fine foods, and you have definitely, like when I watch your travels, you go to some fun places, and so like part of this was having that conversation, because like I'm not a big you asked me about a beer, I don't know anything, but to have you on and say like have your beer on here, that is just really cool. And so, man, Barrique,
named after the type of barrels that they age. So they're actually wine barrels, and there's different varieties of wines they use and stuff like that. And
you also brought a wine for us to drink too.
Yeah, there's a story behind that too.
Well, I just have to say about the 1,000 beers. Are you going to keep going?
So I'm not going with the veracity that I was.
Okay, you slowed it down a little bit.
I slowed it down. The funny part, if you look at the list past 1,000, there's some pretty funny stuff in there. Like there's literally there's like one that just says like, I don't give a, like on it. Like it does not even a right. I was just drinking that night, and I just wrote down. I was like, and then one of them just says nobody actually checks this shit.
Nobody actually checks.
Oh, did I get a meow? Is that what?
Maybe. I've realized that like there's a few words that no one really cares about. It's really the F word.
Yeah, F word. Yeah.
So if you drop the F word, you get.
There's a couple of them, I'm sure.
Yeah. You know what? Like I've had I don't know, you'd be like my 20-something guest, and I don't think anyone's dropped the F word.
F word?
I
want to say one, but I don't want to add editing time for you. Like that's,
maybe I'll just I'll do the shit word for you.
Yeah. Well, it's
I'll do two.
Yeah, do two. Nice. Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah. Now people are gonna wonder what it is.
But you and your wife have you were saying about after the 13 tons.
The 1,000. I've kind of slowed down a little bit. Yeah.
All right, but you and Maggie haven't slowed down traveling, because
we try. Yeah, we're kind of like in a lull right now. We really want to travel.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to go to some of these. Traveling the U.S. is one thing. It's beautiful. It's awesome. You do it for a living all the time. So, I get it. Like, not all the time you need to be every weekend out. But I do see you guys go to some awesome places. And so you remind me of me and my wife. And so when we were talking about this episode, I was like, I have to ask you some awesome questions about, like, your favorite wines, your favorite foods, your favorite, all these things. And so not only did you bring your 1,000th beer, which is still, I've definitely had 100,000 beers, but like 100 or 999
like
or Coors Light.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So this wine, it's a Chianti Classico. It's from, it's obviously Tuscan. But so the story behind it, it's like I drink this wine a lot. I buy this by the case. The reason I love this wine so much is I actually like it. But turns out I liked Chiantis, but basically the day after, close within a day or so of me and Maggie getting engaged. So we got engaged in Switzerland.
Amazing.
And then we went to Italy the next day.
Beautiful.
And so,
which part of Italy?
We went to Florence.
Ooh.
And so we were in Florence, and then so we went and got a dinner that night, and then we slept. And then that next morning, we rented some Vespas, and we started doing a little vineyards tour throughout Tuscany.
So cool.
Awesome. Highly recommend to anybody. And so this is one of the vineyards that we toured, and I loved it. And I was like, usually when you tour, they try to get you to like join some program or whatever. Basically, what I took out of it was I ended up with a picture of this wine. And so like I found like not a picture like this, but like a photo.
Yeah.
And I cheers, buddy.
Oh, dude, this is delicious.
Yeah. And so I found this. I found that photo later, and I always take pictures of things that I want to find later. And I found this, and I remembered the label, and I saw it in one of the wine stores here in Nashville. And I was like, oh, is that wine? And I went through my pictures like back months and months, and I was like, that's that wine, and I bought it, and I was like, it's just as good as it was there. That's the one I was like, this is really good. This is what I like.
I love it.
And I was like, and I kind of liked wine before. I had a bad experience with some wine, like not illness or anything, but I thought I'd saved like a really nice wine. And then my friend's girlfriend drank it. And I was like, that was my favorite wine. It was like a 2005 something. And then I just found out they don't make it. There's no, everybody loved it. They didn't make it. And I was like, you know what? This is stupid. I'm going to drink beer.
I'm going to drink beer.
And so, but I kind of got back into wine by going on that trip. Okay. Turns out if you go to France, Italy, in Spain, you, something about the food and wine kind of pops back in your head.
100%.
And so this wine just reminds me of that trip.
That's awesome.
And so it's nice to be there. And also, it's one of the few red wines that Maggie really likes.
Okay.
She's more of a white person. And I love whites too. Yeah. So, like, this is a one that I always keep in the house because if we make pasta or something like that, I'll crack this guy open. Yeah. So that, it also reminds us of that trip.
Have you two always been big travelers?
Yes. Yeah. Me for sure, obviously, but like so there's longer stories to it, but like when she was young, she traveled a lot with her family. They like took her out on trips and stuff like that. She was sick as a young kid, and so her parents wanted to make sure she had a lot of cool opportunities. But luckily she survived, and and so but she like loves traveling and doing stuff, and so like we just try to do that, and we're just we call each other we're each other's adventure buddies. Like you got to be adventure buddies. Like you got to go try to do new stuff.
Yeah. So you guys have been across Europe a little bit, I'm assuming, is one of the big ones? Yeah,
I've been quite a bit more places than she has.
Okay. And that's mainly because of the job, right?
Yeah. And also just like curiosity, when first years of Cult Forward, before I even met Maggie, or we started dating Maggie, we had like the rare weekend off. And it ended up being the equivalent of like 18 days off. And my friend was teaching English over there. And he just joked. He was like, he just texted me, and he was like, "What have you been up to, man?" It was actually a Facebook message. He's like, "What have you been up to?" And I was like, "Actually, I've like the next 2 weeks off. I don't know what to do with myself." He goes, "Come to Spain."
Love Spain.
And dude, I caught the right opportunity to like buy a ticket. I went over there, slept on his floor for like the whole time. We have some great stories from that trip.
What part of Spain?
Malaga.
Ooh, okay. Is that? I've never been there. I've heard of it. It's in the north. No,
southern Mediterranean coast. Like, basically, Barcelona's in the like.
Yeah,
I guess for the game. I don't know if it's in, but Barcelona's up in the top northeast corner of the Mediterranean, and then Gibraltar is the far southern tip at the Strait of Gibraltar, which Mediterranean goes in. Malaga is kind of like directly in the middle of those two. Like past the French coast, and it's back in the Spanish coast, or I guess before the French coast. So it's like Barcelona is basically right at the borders of that, and so Malaga was just like this cool beach town. It's like not as busy as like Madrid or Barcelona is, and
those little towns are just so cool.
It's kind of central too, because we rented a car a lot and we drive to like Granada and Sevilla, Pamplona. Like we drove all over these places. Went to Gibraltar.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I got addicted that way, and so Maggie always heard my stories, and so she'd never been overseas, with the exception of Mexico, and so when we were trying to get a plan for traveling for like, which she didn't know, but for my engagement or our engagement, she didn't know. I was like, I had a month off. I never have a month off. She had time off.
Where do you want to go?
We were like, we got to go to Europe because you've never been.
Yeah.
You always want to go. So we went to Spain, Switzerland, Italy, France, and Germany.
So cool.
Yeah.
And those are some of my favorite countries in all the world.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I got a rare chance to live off and on in between tours in Austria, and I love Vienna, but I love Germany, and I love like every single one of those countries you just named. Actually, last night, me and my wife watched this YouTube video of a guy talking about, it was an hour long of his favorite places in Italy, and it was just like really high def footage.
Yeah.
And I was just lost in it. I could care less what he was really saying. I was just lost in the views and like, it's just beautiful countrysides and just.
You should do. One of my friends who loves Italy, he actually went over and lived there for a couple months. He turns on, like, when he's eating Italian food and like whatever, he has these. He showed me the sites before, where he has the like it's like, I don't know if it's security cam it's like security cam footage basically. It's like high quality cams that are like in like the city square of Florence or whatever, and he just puts it on the TV, and it's like the actual, and
it's brilliant,
actual life that's happening there. So the people walking around are walking there right now. So it's he said it makes me feel like I'm actually there because it's not contrived or whatever. It's true. It's what's actually. He's like, I feel like I'm there. You know?
I freaking love that. What was you and Maggie, like, you know, one of the questions I had for you, and obviously it's hard to choose just one, but is there one place that stood out besides like just like where you guys got engaged? Because obviously that one's a very important one. But like, to me, I can think of like a few cities where they weren't always like my favorite necessarily. They didn't have like the best life, but like, or nightlife, or they didn't have like everything, but their food and like the drink there just really stood out.
Yeah, Maggie, I know will say that like the food in Spain, that she just was obsessed with the food. And obviously I am too, but Switzerland as a whole, like that's where we got engaged, but Switzerland as a whole, like we're obsessed with. Like to a point when like, with this void of travel that we've kind of had in the last year or two, we send each other Instagram reels all the time of footage of like snow falling in Switzerland. It's just like constant like little warm happies that we send to each other that remind each other that like, we've been there and we loved it, but we're going back, you know.
Yeah. What dish did you guys? Me and my wife, we got engaged in Lyon, France, right? And it was funny because every night, like even if we went out and had a beautiful dinner, we would go have some drinks or something, and then next thing you know, every night we got freaking kebabs from this little place right across the street from our hotel. And they would always like, we'd walk in, they'd be like, extra sauce. Like, I want extra sauce. I want, no tomatoes and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, for me, it varies because for me, I love jamon. I love all the cured meats, like prosciutto and jamon, serrano, iberico, all that stuff is great. But I think like the little like tapas, like the jamon and manchego croquettes, those just little like cheese balls, they're so good, But seafood paella,
ooh, okay,
like it's just. It's amazing. Done so much better there. I've had a couple here in the States that are good. It's like just hard to compare.
Do you watch Chef's Table?
Yeah.
There's one of a guy, I forget his name, but he was part of the big El Bulli out there in Spain. But he has his it's called Tickets, or no, is it Circus or Tickets? But he now has like all these restaurants in Barcelona. And it's hard to watch because we just get so, like, me and my wife are like, should we buy a ticket now?
Yeah.
Do we buy the ticket now? Do we like, how do we do this?
Happen.
Like, do we like swim because we can't like necessarily fly in right now? Like, how do we go there right now? Because that food looks so bomb. But he takes all those like traditional Spanish foods and he's made them into like the new age, like the new Richard Blazes and the new stuff like that. And he was a part of that whole revolution, so I get why he does that. But some of those traditional dishes, when you walk in and you just have like a sardine with really good olive oil and some salt, you're like, oh.
It's the olive oil, dude. In Spain, the olive oil.
We collect olive oil.
It's like olives and olive oil. I did not like olives until I went to Spain for the first time. And then my friend was like, I don't like olives. He goes, no, you don't like the black olives they put on Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Like, he goes, that's what you don't like. He goes, you're going to like these.
Yeah.
I tried them. I'm like, okay, you're right. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm obsessed with this, like, and actually it's funny we talk about Spain. My burger for my Jack Brown's Saint Day, my burger recipe was it had jamon manchego cheese, and it came jamon and manchego cheese. It was a Spanish burger, so it was a jamon manchego cheese, and then it came with a bowl of marinated Spanish olives.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and they totally got it all right. It was perfect.
There is something about that like just Spain in general.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely one of my favorites. Italy, I've spent time in. It's it is my unicorn. I always say that. It's because I've been to Rome 3 times, and I've only landed and driven through the city and then gotten dropped off at a hotel. It was like already, like 11 at night or something. I was like, well, do I really want to go walk around for 4 or 5 hours and see when I have to be up in an hour? Because I got to go do
sometimes you gotta rest.
A load in, and I just flew, I probably should have sucked it up, because now I look back at it and I'm like, dang it, it is my unicorn.
Yeah.
Like, when am I going to get back? And unfortunately, I wish I could have more stories from Italy, but a lot of them are from the north, and they're still great stories. But
I saved myself a few. That's one thing we did there. We saved ourselves opportunity to not just repeat. So we didn't go to any of the Amalfi Coast. Capri and Positano. We didn't get a chance to go there. We know we're gonna love it, but this in Naples, those just logistically didn't make sense with our trip.
Yeah.
And same thing with Venice. And we stopped through Milan, but didn't get to spend time there. And so we left ourselves some opportunity to go back and try new things.
As you should. I think you I think there's one thing about travel that I've always learned is there's the people that go and try to do everything in one trip. Yeah. And it's cool, you saw it all, but did you really see it all? Because
it's impossible.
It is. It's impossible.
Even in Nashville, you can't go see everything.
No, people come here and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I want to go here, 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 and here," and you're like, "No."
Well, from a culinary perspective, Maggie and I have been doing a new reservation at a restaurant in Nashville once a month.
That's amazing.
While we're doing this, we're trying to find all these new places that people tell you they're great.
Yeah.
And some of them here in Germantown, like Rolf and Daughters and Fifth and Taylor. Some of these places we've had brunch at maybe, but haven't eaten dinner. And so we're like, let's get a dinner.
That's smart.
The best thing to do is put a reservation 2 weeks or 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
And not try to go there that night.
Yeah.
And so we've done 4 or 5 restaurants, and it's cool to do that little staycation type thing and make yourself go do a tasting menu at a restaurant,
Yeah, I think that people can really enjoy being in a place a lot more if they don't try to rush around. And one of the cities I went to in Italy that will always have my heart, and it's because we just spent time not trying to get to every single place, but it's because we would sit in a bar for 4 hours and just drink a bottle of wine, was where Romeo and Juliet were. Verona.
Verona, yeah.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to go?
We did not get a chance to go to Verona, no.
If you ever do, it was amazing. We were doing a show there, so we got to play this 2,000-year-old amphitheater.
I've seen pictures of that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it was wild. We could have another 4-hour discussion on how wild that trip was, but we really did exactly what we were just talking about. Is we spent time in these little spots, and we didn't try to go and see everything.
That's touring. That's the part that I can't ever get over with touring, is that you get put in situations that you wouldn't necessarily actively seek out or know you're seeking out. You get stuck at a place where all right, there's a bar we can walk to from here, because you don't have a car.
Yes.
And so you're I walk to that bar, and it turns out that bar is awesome,
amazing,
and then you have a memory of it, and it helps people. People will be like, "Oh, you've never been to Verona," and oh, you just went to go see you went to go see the Romeo and Juliet stuff. No, actually, I went to this bar and said, "Oh, that's my buddy's bar. That's awesome."
We found a Texas themed bar.
Oh, amazing!
Way out of the little city, and that's the thing. It's should we go into this Texas themed bar in the middle of Italy? Of course. Yeah. We 100%. I want to see what their take on Texas and America and all the things. And it was fun, but it was a blast because everybody in there was from Italy.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Italian restaurant that everybody told us to go to that would be filled with Americans.
Exactly.
And it was a completely awesome dynamic because we got to really engage with the locals that want to meet an American or wanted to just get hammered drunk on Coors Light because they had American beers in there.
They wanted that vibe, dude. Yeah, there's a place in Paris. Yeah. It's a chain, which makes it even more funny. Yeah. That's called Indiana.
That's amazing.
And it's overly saturated with Native American memorabilia and pictures and stuff. And I sent some pictures to one of my friends who's Native American, and he was just telling me how hilariously misplaced they were. They're different none of it lined up. It wasn't a theme. He's yeah, that's from a completely different place of this and whatever. But dude, I thought it was funny enough. I had to go, but the menu, it was tacos, fish and chips. There was sushi on it. It was it didn't make any sense at all.
And it shouldn't, because that's even more beautiful though, in a weird, strange way.
And the food was awful. It was atrocious. And I was laughing the whole time. We're in one of the culinary capitals of the world, and me and Maggie, I'm like, we got to go to this like crap hole restaurant that's making fun of America.
No, and that's part of this is because I do that. No, like I think that is travel. One of the things I always did was get chicken nuggets everywhere.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't because McDonald's is great. Like that's the dumbest thing in the world is that it's consistent. So I wanted to see how consistent it was and if it got better or if it got worse, depending on what country I was in. And surprisingly, it got better when I was in Europe and stuff. Who knows why?
Dude, one of Luke's band guys flew ranch from America to Europe last time we were there.
Hidden Valley?
Yeah, I think so. Hidden Valley. And I think that's exactly what it was. Like little ranch containers. And I was kind of making fun of them. And the next thing you know, we're at like some place getting chicken tenders or something like that. Just to get quick food. No sauces or anything like that. And he's over there dipping in ranch. And I'm just like, you clever bastard. Like
that was, and you're right. There isn't ranch and there isn't there isn't honey mustard. But you know what? There's like curry, chicken, sauce, and you're like, okay.
And he's a simple eater, so he's like, I'm bringing something I know I love, so he's safe.
Fair enough. I was in Moscow, and I think I put a cow in there a little too hard too. Moscow. But the people that were showing us around, they were like, oh, do you want to go have a hamburger? I was like, yes, I do. And where, though? And they're like, at this like little 50s diner. I was like, it's modeled around like an American 50s diner. And they're like, yeah. I was like, I'm in. Let's do it. We go in and they have like monster trucks blaring on the TV. Like, I mean, it was like there's Gravedigger in Moscow on this TV, and I was just blown away. I had a milkshake. They're like, do you want an egg on top of your? And it was like it was like a little darker of an orangish color egg. You know, it was like completely different than what I would get here, but it was kind of American and fun to be in there.
Yeah, you gotta put yourself in that sometimes.
And there wasn't a lick of English though. It was just awesome.
So we've talked a lot about like these really well-aged sour beers and the Italian wines and the travel, whatever. But like, actually, I thought of something. I took a little mental note myself with talking about beverages. Is I think it was one of your episodes with your bud. Was it Neil?
Yeah.
So he was talking about making a strong drink, doing one proper. He's like, what, which is kind of airing on that perspective that those people have on Americans is we're just going to do this. We're going to do lots crappily, that's what those Americans do. And I was sitting there laughing that we were talking about. The first thing I thought was him being just make a lot of tequila in there. Just get it over with,
That way you don't have to go back.
It's funny with this full circle thing, this podcast, the pool stories, all that. So I have one of those. One of my favorite beverages is I call it the pool drink. And we'll have to have one of those together at some point when the pool's open and it's warm.
Yes.
But my pool drink is just it's a Yeti. So, the tour gifts. They give me a Yeti tour gift, and another one they give is one of those swells that seals.
Ooh.
And so it's a Yeti that's got a cap, basically. It doesn't spill. And so rather than bringing a whole cooler down to the pool, on a quick day, I fill up a pretty irresponsible amount of vodka in the Yeti.
I like the way you put that.
And then the mixer is White Claw.
Oh, gosh, yes.
It's kind of like a one-and-done drink, but I bring two. And so the swell is the same 16 ounces as the Yeti. And so it's those two is it for the day. So I just slowly sip that terribly irresponsible drink that's just of no culinary value whatsoever. There's no fine wineness to it. It's it's just
all in
poison. You know,
did you count that? No, I just poured until it got to a certain
I put ice in it and I kept pouring until I saw it, and then I went that should be enough.
Yeah. Well, what's hysterical too is that when I look back on our time on FGL together and stuff, it was Fireball and Coors Light. I mean, we drank so much Fireball, and it was and I was even thinking about this on the way over here. One of our probably you're closer to him than I am, but Sarge used to do Jaeger bombs.
Still does, yeah.
I mean, with him alone, I think I've taken 1,000 Jaeger bombs just with him.
Dude,
you've known him for decade, or so. I mean, so I can only imagine that you've probably taken somewhere in the range of 100,000 Jaeger bombs, and those are disgusting, but so good.
Yeah, and it's to a point I became so tolerant to them that it was the shot I would take if I was at a bar and someone's like, hey, you want a shot? And I didn't really want a shot.
Yeah.
I knew I could probably have 7 more Jaeger bombs before I even feel it.
Oh,
It's definitely a problem.
There's something to be said about that, because I always have this like same talk with people outside. I don't think I've ever had it on the podcast, but I always say like I don't get going to a bar and shooting a warm Jameson. It's never resonated in my brain. Like, I've already been drinking all day. I'm hammered.
I don't crave that. It just happens. You know?
I want to do like a lemon drop, something really cheesy, because I just want it to like go down and then be done with it and not have to like think about the aftertaste or the...
Yeah, and we're at an age now where like you can just say, no, I'm not drinking warm Jameson.
Well, and now, and that nowadays I can, and now I usually choose something simple.
Yeah, and I tell
water.
I tell every young guy that's about to turn 30. Yeah. And they're just like, 'cause I'm only 5 years into my 30s now, but it's like, that's enough. They're like, I'm turning 30. I was like, dude, trust me, 30s are better.
Amazing.
And they're like, well, what's so great about 30s? I was like, 30s are just like your 20s, but you're just better with your money, and you have the ability to say no with absolutely no remorse whatsoever.
100%.
And someone's like, hey man, we're going out tonight. It's like, I'm not going out.
Nope.
Well, come on, man. It's like, dude,
nope.
I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock.
I love that.
And then the next night, you might be the guy that wants to go out, and your friend will be like, nah, dude, I'm just not feeling it. You're not trying to make up excuses. You're not saying, like, that actually brings up a point. This is a complete derailment, but I had a whole conversation with a guy, which this blew my mind, of COVID, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's probably just demonetized you or something. You can meow that. No, but, well, just what's going on right now, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, people used to make excuses.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just wondering, out there in the world, how many people have used that, like, get out of jail free card and said, hey, sorry, I can't make it. I tested positive.
COVID.
And I'm just like, the conversation my friend brought up, he's like, the risk is, he goes, it's going to work 100% of the time. Nobody's going to question.
No one.
People want to see negative tests. People never ask to see the positive test to be like, I'm going to make sure you're not lying about being sick. To get out of stuff.
I've had the same conversation.
The worst thing that could happen to you, though, is to say that you got it when you didn't, and then like a week later you actually have to come back to work or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you actually get it.
Well, that's that. Don't lie. Yeah. It's not worth lying, but at the same time, like, there's a lot of people out there using that excuse.
They're just like got a holster, just waiting. It's like, I really don't want to go do this.
And then, dang it.
Hey man, sorry, I tested positive. Oh no, I hope you feel better. You know, it's like, I'm like, how many people don't actually, you know?
Oh, it hurts. Yeah. And then the next week, it's the boy that cried wolf story.
Yeah.
I mean, and
terrifying.
It's one of those, like, and you see it, and you know, whatever, like, the whole COVID thing, we could have like 10 episodes on that. But yeah, like, you don't want to laugh about it, but there is definitely people using and abusing it. Regardless,
it's still humanity.
No matter how you feel about the situation, people are using and abusing it. So, I mean, I have had that same conversation. Like, I wonder how many people are actually using this to just, get out of work, out of life.
Podcast related, I don't want to say disappointment. A thing that I wish was here that's not here. First off, like, I've never met your wife.
Oh yeah.
And she seems like watching her on the show. It seems like such a cool person. She seems perfect for you, which is amazing. Like, it's nice to get to know her through that.
Oh, thank you.
A little bit of insight. But I've missed the baby monitor.
Oh yeah.
Like, the baby monitor is always in the shot. And it's just like, so my best friend Adam, he just had a baby. It's like every time we hang out now, that same baby monitor. I swear it's the same.
It's right there, yeah.
It's in the same thing.
It's a popular one.
It's always there.
You know why it's so popular is it doesn't use Wi-Fi, and so people can't, like, I mean, I'm sure someone could hack into it if they really want to, but it's a way more secure system.
Yeah. I think it's so funny. I see that. I'm like, that's also like a very common thing about cheers. I was just like, I wish the baby monitor was here.
Love that. Oh, that's so awesome.
It's always there.
It is weird. I'll tell you this. Doing these interviews, like, I love to talk, so we could go on for hours. With her, it was awesome, like, because I know, like, seeing you and Maggie, you guys are very, like, I'm like, I think you're all the same couple. I don't know. Yeah. We're, like, very similar in, like, what we like, what we do, what we talk about, and so with my wife, it was really weird when I started to build this, and then she wasn't involved, because I've never been like a really big, like, I've never been a big girlfriend, boyfriend kind of person, and then I met her, and even then it took a while to get into it. Now that I'm in, I'm like, I'm in, like, you know, and one thing we want to add is a third mic. So eventually, when we do interviews and stuff, we can have that, like, and someone referred to her as Robin the other day, like, you know, the Howard Stern Robin.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, is that a good thing? I was like, no, it's amazing. I was like, Robin was, like, Robin really did take that show to that next level. So, I mean, I do miss her when she's not here. And so, yeah, well, maybe next time we do this, we'll have like the baby monitor.
Yeah, I love the baby monitor, man. It's just like it's like what they call it, a recurring character, returning character, recurring character. Yeah, like I was like, oh, there's the baby monitor.
Circle it.
Yeah, who's watching the baby monitor? Oh, he's got the baby monitor today. You know,
I never watch it.
Yeah,
I talk too much. I wouldn't. She'd be like, "What's going on? Is he alive?"
You look down and be like, where'd he go?
Yeah, I'd be like, babe, we have an issue.
I guess he's old enough to escape now, you know? Like
he's getting there, man. It's crazy.
They grow fast, man.
Before we start to wrap up, though, I don't think you told me, or maybe I didn't ask this, but do you have a cheap meal that you like to go and find?
Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Taco Bell. Dude, first off, Is
that you and Maggie's?
No.
Like, okay.
Oh, no. She hates Taco Bell. She loves McDonald's, and I love Taco Bell.
That is awesome.
And so the thing is that we do go together. So it's like when we finally give in and we're like, we're going to get fast food.
Yeah.
I go to Taco Bell, and she goes and gets chicken nuggets from McDonald's. Like Wendy's is sometimes like a compromise thing.
When they had the spicy nuggets.
Yeah, I think they still got them.
Do they?
I don't know. Here's the thing that broke my heart. Rarely did my heart get broken like it did when they canceled the Mexican pizza.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people hate
the Mexican pizza was like, that's my thing, man. And it broke my heart when that went away. But like, I will say my like one thing about Taco Bell that I'd laugh out loud. I verbally out loud say to myself, when are you going to learn, Michael, that Taco Bell is not car food? Every bleeping time. I'm in there.
Even when you think the burrito, you take a bite, it's coming out.
Dude, I'm like on my way to something, and I'm like, oh, dude, a burrito tastes a taco would be so great right now. I get there,
boom, everywhere.
Sour cream right in your crotch area.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, well, I got to explain that.
And their crunchy tacos are like notorious for just blowing apart.
Dude.
One bite, not a thing.
The crunchy tacos are my favorite too, and it's just like, I like that kind of Tex-Mex thing, but it's like Taco Bell is my go-to. Yeah. McDonald's is hers.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, I say the cheapest thing we probably do is we love grilled cheese and tomato soup.
Nice.
Yeah, very basic, like childhood memory kind of stuff.
I love that though. My wife and I, again, we really do love the fancy stuff, but there's something to be said about like just, even in these other countries, we always joke about it. We're like, oh my gosh, like here we are, we're getting engaged in France. We go to this Michelin 3-star restaurant the night before, and then we get home from there, we drink a bunch of champagne, and then we end up ordering like McDonald's.
Right.
And it's like, what in the F is wrong with us sometimes? But there's something, I don't know, just drinking and eating, and it doesn't matter.
We got chicken nuggets in Rome.
I'll dip my hand in any bar peanuts, like just because it's there.
Yeah, they serve beer at McDonald's in Italy. So like, I went to get a beer and Maggie got some chicken nuggets and we ate there. She's like, "You're gonna hate me because we're in Rome, and I know you've got plans." But she goes, "I'm grumpy and I want some chicken nuggets." I was like, "Let's go there."
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Another thing. This is a good thing to leave out into the world. This is a good comment section thing. Is we love PB&Js.
Ooh,
and I got really into PB&Js, especially I went vegan for a year.
Okay.
And just as in a solidarity act with a friend, a friend was doing it for their stepdad who had cancer, and it was like a thing like that. We did it all together to kind of like find, we went out and found the recipes and like helped him just live a life, and we'd find. I'm like, I'm gonna go try every fake chicken on the planet, and then tell you which one sucks and which one's great.
Yeah.
And when I was doing that, I got really into PB&Js. But me and Maggie fight about. I like peanut butter on both pieces of bread.
Oh yeah.
And she doesn't. She thinks it's too much peanut butter. My mom used to do that for this reason. My mom would put a layer of peanut butter on both pieces of bread.
Yeah.
When we would make our sandwiches in the morning, so that when you packed it up, by the end of the day, the jelly or jam hadn't saturated the one side of the bread.
Fair argument.
It's just super simple logic. But Maggie just doesn't like that flavor of too much peanut butter. I love it.
Yeah.
And so, like, when we make PB&Js, we don't make, like, 2 PB&Js. She's like, that one's yours, and that one's mine.
Yeah.
And she, like, to a point, sometimes won't let me make hers because I don't make it right.
She's like, I saw you wipe the knife on the other side. I don't want any peanut butter.
You nailed it. You think I'm joking. Like, she is like, no, that's wrong.
That is too good. Are you crunchy or smooth?
I mix it up, man.
I just take a spoon sometimes. And just go right into a peanut butter jar.
I like crunchy. I like crunchy a lot, but I also like smooth. I also like going way bougie and roasting cashews
Okay, now you lost me on that one, but
I roast cashews and then put them in the food processor and make them like coarse chunks, and then sprinkle them over the PB&Js.
That's that bougie day, though.
That's usually inspired by other.
You're sipping red wine and making PB&Js at the house.
That's usually I've recently come back from a gig in Denver or California or Washington, and I'm in a different level, and I'm just like, and I'm watching Chef's Table.
Oh yeah.
And I don't have any fresh salmon to sear or whatever. I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna make the most bougie. I'm gonna pretend I'm on Chef's Table and make a PB&J. And I'm like, Maggie's like, what are you doing in there? I was like, I'm roasting cashews. What for? I'm making a PB&J. She's like, you're out of your mind.
She's like, you have a flamethrower out. You're like, I know. I'm heating up. I have to toast them perfectly, and there's no way to do that without a flame.
This isn't creme brulee. This is a PB&J. I was like, you stay out of my kitchen.
We do nachos though.
Oh,
and
nice.
one night we were like having a little too much fun. There's probably champagne and who knows what else fun. And next thing I know, I turn around and I'm like, I'm gonna go make nachos. She's like, yeah. I was like, but they're gonna be like bougie nachos. And I took each chip out individually to find the most perfect. And we were also watching Top Chef that night.
Yeah.
So we like each chip got the right proportion of cheese, meat, and like a jalapeno or something like that. And then I put them in an oven just for a little while. Then I had to like put a little cheese and redo all these things. They were amazing, but wow, that's not what nachos should be.
I cannot wait to tell her about that, because she does a thing. Maggie does this thing she calls the perfect bite.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so like,
use bush.
Yeah. And so like she does, especially like we'll go to a ramen place. She will like save portions and like eat around it, save portions, and have the exact ratio of all the mushrooms and greens and the egg.
I love this so
she
much.
saves her egg and she saves all this stuff, and then when she's about to wrap it up,
all in the spoon,
she'll create very, very intently curate the perfect bite. And I swear, she just eats it. She just closes her eyes. She's like, "Yep,
done.
That's it.
Done.
Every time, consistent."
All right, we're gonna have to go to a dinner together, and I just because I feel like we are all on the same food page.
You can look at her and be like, "Perfect bite." She's like, "How'd you know?" And you'd be like, "If you would have watched my damn podcast, you would have
just tuned in that one day, even just for your hubby."
Yeah, no, she would start watching this and be like, "All right, I'm not listening to him talk again for another hour. I just listened to him talk about racing simulators for 2 hours. I don't give a shit about
that's
it."
Okay, so we're not. This is part one of Zeus. We have to when you go out. All right, so you're gonna leave on tour. When you come back, I want you on one more time because we have racing to talk about, more food to talk about, Bevvies, and so much more.
Yeah.
All right. Deal.
Watches.
We're gonna sign.
We can talk about watches all day.
And that beautiful sub you got on.
Yeah. We'll just leave Tom Beaupre elsewhere. And not have him talk us out of it.
No, he honestly he corrected me that episode. He was like, no, you did the right thing. I was like, all right.
It's your bargaining chip, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
Get out of jail free card, right?
It is, man. It's so good. All right, we're gonna start wrapping this up, but I have one last question for you, and I think that this is a cool one, specifically designed for you and Maggie, and I gave it to you earlier just so you had it in your brain, and you instantly said, I got it. And I've never asked anybody this, but I know a place. I mean, my wife and I have chatted all the time. Like, all right, like if we ran away, here it is, or like, where is our go-to? So if you had one place to fly today, you and Maggie, and never return because of it's just so amazing, where would it be?
Interlaken, Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
Interlaken or Lauterbrunnen, like they're basically in the same area, but
all right.
We love Switzerland.
That's it.
Just like the way that country's ran and the way the people are there.
It is amazing.
And it's just the most beautiful place on the planet.
Have you gotten engaged there? Was that where you got engaged?
Yeah, that was. But it was the place where we went to like, because she wanted to go there, and I turned out to love it too. It's the one place we felt like we should have spent more time there. And so we cannot wait to go back.
Is it high up in the mountains? Low in the mountains?
Yeah, pretty high. Like the place we got engaged was the highest peak in Europe. Amazing. They happen to have a train that goes up to it, so we didn't exactly climb it. We rode a train up there. We hopped out and we walked on a path, and then got out of tourist land. Yeah, and we were just in the middle of a glacier, and just like it was beautiful. It was like 14,000 feet or something.
I remember the picture. Yeah,
it was like 14 or 15,000, maybe even 16. It's like 8,400 meters or something like that.
That's beautiful.
So for my birthday,
did you have someone take a photo, or did you like propose and then recreate it?
I propped it up. And so I told her, I was like, oh, let's take a picture. I was like, let me prop my phone up. Let's do a little time picture.
Smooth.
And she was like, cool. And I actually did a video.
Smoother.
Yeah, and it's awful.
Then you can go and take any.
Dude, I tried to say all this beautiful stuff, and I totally boned it. It was awful. And then I told her, I was like, take this ring before these guys walk through our video. And these like climbers like walk through the video. It's really funny, but yeah. And then we blew our phone's battery FaceTiming everybody, and I actually got sunburnt from the snow.
Oh wow!
Because I stood out there long enough FaceTiming my mom and everybody, and I like looked at and let my face later. It was all red.
This is super red.
The funny part is like, not to be leave the PG world, but like, you know, we're celebrating. We're, you know, a romantic couple, whatever.
Yeah.
And we had every intention of going back to our Airbnb in Interlaken and having just like a beautiful romantic night together and celebrating our love. And the trains that we took, the one last train shut down before we went. So a friend of mine sent a wonderfully generous Venmo to me.
Yeah.
That just said, go find the best. Congratulations, go find the best dinner you can.
Yay!
It was like $500.
Yeah,
it was like go find the best dinner you could. I thought it was amazingly generous. It was perfectly timed. We went and found like the best culinary restaurant we could find that would let us in the clothes that we were wearing, and we sat down and had this wonderful meal. But we stayed there long enough, drank wine, and hung out to where that train stopped running back to Interlaken.
Of course.
And so we just had to hop on a bus. Man, you remember like in Harry Potter when they get on the night bus?
I've never seen it.
So in Harry Potter, get on the night bus. This blind guy's driving, and he's just driving like a maniac.
Oh,
I always send that video to our other tour guides and being like, "This is our driver right now."
This is our driver.
Yeah, and so but this lady was driving like a maniac. Maggie got so motion sick. So we got back, and she's just sitting there with like a cold, wet towel on her head, laying. The romantic night did not happen, but that was like the first test of marriage. Is be like, all right,
yeah, and you're in. This is it.
We're gonna lay here and watch, you know, Friends on Netflix, and or something like that, and watch you try to not throw up right now. Like,
100%.
Happy engagement. We'll do this tomorrow. You know,
you should see my wife when we walked up a giant hill in France, and then she was just sweating profusely, and I'm over there dying of heat too because I got a backpack on. We finally get back to the room. We're so champagne drunk that I think we fell asleep till like the next day.
We walked around for 2 miles. That morning, we walked around for 2 miles, and Maggie was just a colossal bitch all morning trying to find coffee. She doesn't like espresso that much. She's learning to like it.
Yeah.
But Europe's all espresso.
Oh, my gosh.
So she's looking for Starbucks iced coffee, and it's nowhere, right? There's not a Starbucks in Switzerland, you know? There might be one in like Lucerne, or like there's definitely probably one in Zurich.
Oh, for sure. I've been to that one multiple times.
But there's none in these ski towns. They're just coffee shops. And so I'm having a blast because I'm enjoying some beautiful coffees. Yeah. And like, mountain people, like they love hot beverages. We walked 2 miles. We finally go into a store there, a little cafe. Gets a coffee. She puts all this stuff in it, trying to make it like what she wants. She takes one sip of it, throws it away in the trash can outside of the cafe. And I'm just looking at her like, I'm sitting there thinking with the ring in my backpack, being like,
is this what I want to do?
This is who I'm going to ask. I was like, I guess I'm still in. And she just laughed. She's like, later in the day, she was like, such a bitch all morning. And you still did this? I mean, that says a lot. Turns out
I love it.
Her favorite coffee in all of Switzerland came from a vending machine at the train station. It was a vending machine cappuccino. She's like, this is what I was looking for. I was like, that's a soda machine.
We passed this 7 times.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have known that.
Hilarious.
Also, love this.
There's a Hooters in Interlaken.
Yo, I've been to many Hooters, I used to work at one, obviously, so I've been to a lot.
Yeah.
There's one in like Nottingham. I've been to.
It's like bizarre.
It is the most bizarre thing to get over there, and you're like, whoa.
There's all these strips of like beautiful, like Swiss watch boutiques, and then we're walking. I was like, you got to keep me out of these watch boutiques, Mags. She's like, oh yeah, let's just keep walking. I look up, I was like, is that what I think it is? And she goes, yeah, that's a Hooters. And she's like, it's like right next to like a Ritz-Carlton looking place. I'm just like, and it looked so nice.
Oh,
like it was clean, and beautiful.
Oh, I think we should travel together.
That would be.
I think we all would have just too much fun. But hey, dude, I think it's time to wrap this time around.
Yeah. These guys about to open this brewery. Come on down.
Yeah, if you're in Nashville, this is pretty awesome, I have to say. Thank you again for choosing this place. Thank you for giving me your time.
I just want to do anything I could to help promote these guys because they just do such cool things.
No, we'll definitely put their links up. We'll put, like, if you
If you love beers, you got to come here.
If you have a list of stuff that really stands out too, it'd be awesome to get like your take on not only like this place, but even a couple of like Jack Brown's beers and stuff like that. But definitely this place, because I'm coming back.
They don't just do sours; they have all sorts of other beers too. So it's like it's incredible.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to have you on again because I really am I'm just gonna go on a limb and say this is part 1.
Yeah, I'm in
of Phil and Zeus because. We have so much more stuff to talk about.
We could talk for days. I'll try to drive safe so we can make sure we have, part 2 happen,
Well, you go have yourself a wonderful tour. If you are watching this on YouTube, here's some bottles for you to look at. Yep. If not, I'll put some links up. Go wave at Zeus out on, well, he might be under are you guys doing in the round again?
Half and half,
Go wave at Zeus out on Luke Combs. He'll wave back, maybe throw a guitar pick at you. And, please subscribe. Please, just have fun. Yep. Enjoy your midweek treat. Hey, cheers.
Cheers.
And I only have a little to bottoms up, but
bottoms up. Yeah, we'll be all right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers and bottoms up, buddy.
Cue outro music.
And pyro.
Yeah, nice, dude. Oh man, that was great.